Right now, somewhere in your house, there's a switch. You'll flip it tonight without even thinking. Light will fill the room instantly, and the darkness will simply disappear. But for 300,000 years, that switch didn't exist. When the sun went down, it took everything with it. Color. Shape. Your own hands in front of your face. Total darkness every single night for every single one of your ancestors. And they didn't just endure it. They lived an entire second life inside it, one that modern humans have almost completely lost. A life with its own rules, its own dangers, and its own hidden state of mind that scientists only rediscovered a few decades ago. So what actually happened once the sun went down? The answer isn't just about sleep. It's about how the night quietly built the human brain, and how, without realizing it, we tore that structure back down. Let's start with the one thing that made any of it survivable. Fire. The oldest solid evidence of controlled fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dated to roughly 1 million years ago. Before that, our ancestors had no defense against the dark at all. When night fell, you climbed, you hid, and you stayed frozen because your eyes are almost useless after sunset, and the animals hunting you never had that problem. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, all of them owned the night. You didn't. Fire flipped that arrangement overnight. Literally. A single fire creates a rough 30-foot circle of safety. Step outside it, and the odds turn against you fast. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have documented that people who wander from the fire after dark are far more likely to be killed. Even today. But fire didn't just protect people. It gave them something they had never had in their entire evolutionary history. More hours to be alive in. Before fire, your day ended the moment the sun dropped. Maybe 12 hours in summer. As few as 8 in winter. Fire added 2 to 4 extra usable hours onto every single night, for every single generation, for thousands of years in a row. And that stretch of extra time didn't just get filled with more of the same. Changed what humans talked about entirely. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner recorded and analyzed hundreds of hours of real conversation among the Juhoansi of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still living close to that original rhythm. During the day, she found something almost mundane. Roughly 80% of conversation was pure logistics. Who's hunting where? Which plants are ripe? Practical, forgettable, functional talk. But at night, around the fire, something flipped. Night, 81% of conversation turned into stories. Myths about how the world began. Tales of people in faraway places. Jokes that had the whole camp laughing in the dark. Wiesner's conclusion was blunt. The campfire wasn't just where people rested. It was the first theater. The first classroom. Maybe the first church. It's where humans learned to imagine things that didn't exist yet, and some researchers argue that's the exact moment culture as we understand it was born. But here's the part that gets stranger. The fire wasn't the only thing rewriting the human brain at night. Something else was happening in the dark, something we forgot so completely that when historians found evidence of it, they didn't even recognize what they were looking at. In 2001, historian Roger Ekirch spent 16 years combing through medieval records, court documents, prayer books, diaries, even passages buried in Homer's Odyssey. Over 500 separate references, spanning centuries, all describing the exact same thing. First sleep. And second sleep. Before artificial light existed, people didn't sleep in one block the way you do tonight. They went to bed shortly after dark, slept for about 4 hours, then woke up, not from insomnia but on schedule like clockwork. They stayed awake for an hour or two in the pitch black. Then they slept again until dawn. For hundreds of years, historians had been reading these references and mistranslating them, because they simply couldn't imagine humans sleeping any other way than we do now. And then, in 1992, science accidentally proved it was true. Psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment where volunteers spent a month with zero artificial light, 14 hours of true darkness every night, just like life before fire extended the evening. Within weeks, every single participant fell into the exact same rhythm. 4 hours of sleep. 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness. Then 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody told them to do this. Nobody suggested it. Surfaced on its own, like a program buried under centuries of electric light, just waiting to switch back on. And when we measured what was happening in their bodies during that strange waking window, the results were almost unsettling. Their brains were flooded with prolactin, the same hormone released during meditation and after orgasm. Subjects described the state as peaceful, reflective, almost sacred. It wasn't a gap in sleep. It was its own distinct state of consciousness, one that almost no living person today has ever experienced. So what killed it? The answer is disturbingly simple. Light. In the 1600s, Paris installed the first street lamps under Louis XIV, hoping to push back crime. London followed soon after. Then came cheaper candles. Then gas lamps in the 1800s. Then, in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the light bulb, and within a single generation, the night that had shaped humans for 300,000 years was simply gone. And here's a detail almost nobody knows. The word curfew comes from the Old French couvre-feu, literally, cover the fire. In medieval towns, a bell rang each night ordering everyone to smother their flames. Not for safety. 'Cause night was supposed to be dark. Being outside after dark without a lantern was, in many towns, flatly illegal. Night belonged to danger and to whatever people imagined lived in it. Then we lit it up. And we called that progress. But here's what we quietly lost in the trade. Modern humans are now exposed to artificial light for 7 to 8 hours after sunset. Much of it blue light from screens, which suppresses melatonin, the hormone that tells your brain it's time to sleep. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a light bulb and the sun. Light hits your retina at 11 p.m. and your body assumes it's still daytime. Researchers have found that people who spend just 1 week camping with zero artificial light have their melatonin cycles reset within 2 hours. Their bodies begin producing it right at sunset again, exactly the way it worked for 300,000 years. That's how fast the old program comes back online. That's how close it still is, underneath everything. Which means we didn't just change our sleep schedule. We erased an entire phase of human consciousness, the quiet, reflective state between first and second sleep, and replaced it with something we now diagnose as a disorder. So the next time you wake up at 2 a.m. for no reason, lying there in the dark with your mind strangely quiet, ask yourself something. What if that's not your body malfunctioning? What if it's your body remembering exactly what it was built to do? For 300,000 years, your ancestors spent their nights in that same rhythm, gathered at the edge of a fire, trading stories that would eventually become civilizations, then sleeping in 2 calm phases with a private hour of stillness in between, staring up at a sky so dark that the Milky Way wasn't something you drove out of the city to see. It was just the sky. We traded all of it, the fire, the stories, the stillness, for a single light switch. And most of us never even noticed it was gone.